What's good, everyone? I'm going to run through another quick full self-drive video here and trying out using a GoPro at a different angle, which hopefully now gives a better view into the actual visualization screen there behind the wheel and a little bit of a wider view as well. Now, the only thing with that I learned is the audio is terrible, so I'm going to voice over the audio here. And in this drive, just doing another simple drive. I'm trying to go very small, get used to what some of the pros and cons are. Starting off on an expressway here, going through a few lights, keeping me pretty much in the same lane. Basic stuff that the regular autopilot can do. Now, I'm coming up against a light and you'll see it confidently gets me into the left lane here. There's going to be a left turn, but it's going to be a turn at the light. So far on this trip, I went probably about 3/4 of a mile, a right turn to get onto this expressway, and then going straight on it up into this left turn here. Now, you can see for this car, I'm on a 2017 Model X. It has the old infotainment system, so it has the MCU1, and with that, you would think that the visualizations aren't great. It actually is surprisingly really good. It's much better than I had thought it would be. And you can see in here on this expressway, there's, I think, 8 lanes. You get good visibility into everything going on. Traffic on the other side, traffic behind me, traffic to the right. You'll see when the light turns green here in just a second, it gives pretty good visualization on what's going on around me. Even right now, when the light turned green from the right, you can see the cars coming from a pretty good distance away. So the cameras do a great job in getting you, a very wide angle of view around me. Now, one thing that I was kind of explaining here, that's why you see my hand moving. I've noticed when it comes to a left light, when it's about to stop right before it veers the wheels out to the right a little bit, kind of like it's trying to make sure that there's enough space to get a wide turn. And that just feels strange because it angles the wheel slightly to the right and then stops. And you don't know that when the light turns green and you pick back up, is it going to continue veering to the right and go into the lane? Now, it doesn't. But I've noticed this happens often where the wheels just slightly turn out at the last minute to the right. And then when the light goes green here, it'll turn back again. So you'll see the wheel, when the light turns green, starts to shift right back to the left. And there you go. Now it's kind of straight on. Again, that just feels awkward. It doesn't feel right. You can see that there's a ton of light. This is early morning. The sun is low, and with that, it's blinding me as a driver, but the cameras held this really well. No problems at all with the cameras being able to handle this glare or this sun just like straight on. I'm going to go through a couple more lights, then I'll turn right at a light up here. And there's typically a lot of traffic around this area. This morning there wasn't. I was actually hoping there would be to see how it could merge in to the right lane when there usually is a lot of traffic and you have to kind of squeeze in. But today there wasn't, so it got over on its own. It got over easily. It should be able to handle maneuvers just like that, no problem at all. I've seen that in the week that I've kind of used this to drive, first, I've had to have a disengagement every time, so I've never had a seamless drive at all. The other thing that I've noticed, though, is on an expressway, a 3 or 4 lane, road or freeway, which is, I guess, technically not even using the full self-drive, it handles itself just fine. Now here, you can see it didn't merge over that well. It kind of started to go, and then it realized, oh, we got to get over, and it got behind that car. That was a little interesting. It handles this right turn just fine, though, and then keeps me in the right lane. But I've noticed roads like this it handles really, really well. Where it gets weird, and this is actually something that is interesting to think about, um, because humans we're used to driving our way. We're not used to, having letting go of control and letting something drive us. It can feel a little bit awkward, and especially for someone like me who does always most of the driving. I like to drive. It feels weird to let go of control. I'm going to turn right up here in a few streets, so you'll see it go through a few more stoplights, goes through them just completely fine. But you'll notice that once you get into more residential areas, that's where it handles itself fine, but it just feels awkward. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute here. So I think there's going to be one more light that we go through, then we're going to take a right at a light again, and then we'll go through this residential area, and you can see some of the driving where it just positions itself within the road in kind of different areas depending on if there's cars or not cars. So sometimes you're kind of hugging the curb, other times you're more in the center of the road, which is strange. So it's going to get over here, and it actually, I think, handled that section really well, where there were people in the bike lane on the right, and it went around them just fine. So they're in a non-existent lane, and it kind of got itself right in between them. It didn't follow that car, which was good. It stayed in the center, let them kind of create their own lane on the side, and kept going straight. So that was one thing I was kind of concerned about. Would it try and follow that car? Would it veer off? And no, it handled itself actually pretty well in that scenario. And it was a tight space too, which again feels weird when you're letting the car take control. I'm obviously, you can see my hands are always on the wheel. My foot is always by the brake. I'm ultra cautious to make sure that if I need to take over, I will take over. And I'm probably more cautious than I would be driving myself, to be honest. So here's where we're going to hang a right, and there's oncoming traffic. It's waiting, it's looking, no traffic coming, so it goes just fine. And now we're getting into one of these smaller streets where you don't have really dividers that are typically that clear in the middle. You also will see you have cars and then breaks of cars, and this is where sometimes it does get a little bit interesting. You can see barely, I know it'll be hard on the screen in the visualizations, that it's trash day here, so there's trash cans out, and it actually can read those, which is cool. But coming up here in a little bit, you'll see that there's cars and there's trash cans, so it's staying kind of in the middle of the lane. But now sometimes when there's not, it really gets close to the curb there. It'll ride pretty close to the right edge, which again feels a little bit awkward. Stopping at a three-way stop, left turn, totally fine, no traffic. Again, really bright light. So this is something that never gave me an alert. It was able to handle fine. I was squinting pretty hard. I'm going to stop it here. We enter upon a school, and there was a lot of school kids and all kinds of commotion going on. So just to be extra cautious, I took over. But I'm going to keep recording these as I take quick little drives. As I get more comfortable, I'll take longer drives and get into more interesting situations to really push it to the limits to see how it can handle. If there's anything that you want to see, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be tweaking some of the audio and visual settings that we use too, trying out a few different cameras as well. So let me know any feedback, and I'll keep some of these coming. I'm excited to see how the full self-drive continues to improve and adapt to new situations.